I've been painting out here today, and it's just wonderful to be out here, and I'll tell you why. This is the cove where I grew up. The shore on the other side is where I spent a lot of time, most of my summers, just paddling and splashing around in the mud and the gravel and chasing shrimp and snails and jellyfish. And now I'm back here painting today. I've been painting this little boat, and it's really neat that the shore here is so light colored. Most of the rock here is a reddish brown, but what I'm actually standing on is clamshells. Listen when I walk closer to the boat. There's millions of clamshells here from when there was a clam factory here 60 years ago or so. It was up on the shore here somewhere, and they'd shuck the clams and just throw the shells out the back door. There was a great big heap of them here when I was a kid. The tide has spread out the clamshells all up and down the beach, so it looks like we've got beautiful white sand, but it's actually just clamshells, which is kind of cool. Here's the boat that I painted, and I've had my eye on this for, years. Today I finally got the chance to paint it. The weather's beautiful. There's a sailboat race way out in the distance. The boats have gone behind the island back there, but I saw some white sails go by earlier while I was painting. And let me show you what's on my easel. So I'm starting here with a black and white sketch. I've drawn out the scene as I think I'd like it to look in the final painting. I've chosen elements of the landscape to support the scene, not necessarily putting them exactly where they are in real life. I've made the island smaller and moved the rocks in the sort of mid-ground around to create a background for the boat. The black and white sketch also lets me assess my drawing of the boat and make sure I have the proportions right. In this case, I didn't quite have the shape of the boat right, so now I'm redrawing it here for the color version, and I'm taking more time. You can see me holding the pencil up against the paper. That's me measuring the angles and the proportional different shapes of the boat so that I get a good drawing to base my painting on. Once I got the boat drawn in, it was time to put in the rest of the scene, and I stuck fairly close to my black and white sketch because I was happy with how the rest of it looked. I just needed to fix the shape of the boat. So then it's time to paint it in color, and I'm starting with the background, as I often do. It looks very dark as I'm putting it in here, but the thing to remember is this is watercolor, and this is all going to dry looking a fair bit lighter than it looks when I put it down. I'm painting in the sand and the rocks in the foreground and just letting the brush skip over the paper so that it creates that feeling of rough, broken texture. What I'm working on here is a watercolor panel that I made myself. I glued some watercolor paper to a wooden panel, and that gives me a nice rigid surface to work on, and I just like the way the texture of the paper once it's glued to the panel. I'm trying to create a sense of bright light here today. So even though I liked how it looked with the water not painted in, I have painted in the water quite a strong blue, and this is to create the sense of brilliant light upon the rocks and the shells in the foreground, and on the boat too, of course, which is why I'm okay with that dark shadow under the boat. It creates that sense of really glaring bright light on this particular day.